Hello and welcome to another video for Bart's Wargaming. So today I wanted to go over the Cities of Sigmar Hallowheart because that's what I've been using most commonly in tournaments and really kind of get the information out there so you can figure out how you're going to build your army and how you can beat Hallowheart. So without too much ado, let's go ahead and pop in. So the Hallowheart battle traits, let's go ahead and start with them. So first of all, it's Eldritch Attunement. So that's each time a Hallowheart unit is affected by a spell on a 5-up, it gets ignored. It's pretty good. You know, it works really well against some list. One of my favorite things is to do, stack it with dragons. A unit of dragons in Hallowheart gets a 5-up spell ignore and a 4-up spell ignore. Makes it really nice, almost like the old Chaos Zinj Varangard. Secondly, let's go ahead and look at Mages of the White Court. So all Hallowheart wizards can attempt to cast one extra spell in your hero phase. So every single caster is a 2-cast. Also, they get a second spell as long as the first spell is from the Hallowheart lore. So that being said, you're going to get quite a bit of spells out there. I commonly have 10 casts to go, 10 casts per hero phase in a hero phase, where I've got everything up and running and everything like that. Finally, Arcane Channeling. So it does cost a command point, and you have to pick a unit. So what you really want to do is you have a target that you want to pick that's got at least 6 wounds. Now that wound, you're going to roll a d6. It'll take that many wounds. If you negate it in any way, shape, or form, it reduces the bonus. For every mortal or for every wound that target takes, you give every other wizard plus to that. So let's say you roll a 3. Cool. I'm not going to roll any ward saves. Every wizard gets +3 that's within 12 of it. Let's say I've got a Frostheart Phoenix with an Arcane Tome. I can channel it through him. I roll a 6. Cool. Well, that's a lot of wounds. I don't know if I really need the +6. Let me go ahead and do some ward saves. Save 2 or 3 of them. Cool. Now we got a +3 for everyone near that Frostheart Phoenix. Again, that is not the one who the command trait is done onto. So the person who takes the wounds does not get these bonuses. So a lot of times it's really cool to do that with Grandis. That way he's still getting a +3. Everyone else gets another big bonus too. Let me go ahead and rewind for a second. The Arcane Channeling target is also a lot of times who you want to try to dispel, because they're getting a lot of really high spells off, but that target's still not going to have any good spells. They're trying to get you to throw a dice at the other stuff, and then the other one's going to have maybe a +1 or +2. Command traits. So Veteran of the Blazing Crusade. So this one's really good. Don't take Battle Shock Test wholly within 18 of this guy. So if your general wants that, I mean, that's pretty good. I'm hoping they get rid of Master Magic, but if they don't, or if they do, you know, something like this would be amazing. It's pretty strong. I'd give it like maybe a 8 out of 10. It's not used in every situation, but if you're putting a lot of bodies on the field, not having to take Battle Shock tests is really good, especially against Nighthaunt. Warden of the Flame. This one's not the greatest, but at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice. On a 4-up, you receive an extra command point. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's kind of one of those things. Okay, cool. Cities is commonly starved for CP, so I mean it could be okay. If you've already got cogs in your list, maybe this is what you want to go with. Finally, Famed Spell Hunter. So if he is a wizard, add 3 when he's trying to get rid of endless spells. Get rid of that pesky, you know, purple sun or whatever's just eating your army alive. If they're not a wizard, they can attempt to dispel one. So you can't just give it to a Rune Lord and give him +5 to dispel. But if you give him Arcane Tome and Famed Spell Hunter, yeah, he's +5 to dispel. It's pretty nice. Also, as a note, like say you did that and the spell goes off on a 5, even if you roll level 1s, the spell is still dispelled. Battle traits. So Eldritch Attunement. I already did this, I apologize. Artifacts. So these are the 3 artifacts that you get to choose from that are specific to the Hallowheart. The Algaraxi Prism, I believe it said. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons. So we're not really into really heavy shooting meta. We could become more of a shooting meta now that we have ogres coming back out and adding a bunch of stuff. But it's pretty decent. Pauldrons of the Flame. At the end of your combat roll or phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer. On a 4+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. It's okay. I think it should be at the start of the combat phase. That way you're whittling stuff down, but at the end of the combat phase, it's just not amazing. Most of the time, stuff's dead. It's very, you know, stuff gets picked up easily. Finally, the Whitefire Tome. If you're a wizard, you know all 6 spells from the lore. If you aren't a wizard, then you know one spell from the lore. Now, that being said, if you aren't a wizard and you have the spell, you don't get bonus from the Eldritch Attunement. So when someone else gets pluses to roll, this does not give you you don't get a bonus because you don't have the keyword wizard, so you don't actually get the bonus. Another example of how this is kind of an old book and a little wonky is, like, say this guy isn't a wizard, he's casting one spell for you, and he's near your Frostheart Phoenix. It's not going to give that Frostheart Phoenix +1 to save. Again, the same reason he is not a wizard. He does not count as a wizard. So let's go through the lore of Whitefire. First is Roaming Wildfire. There's a casting value of 6, and you pick one enemy unit within 18 inches. They take D3 mortal wounds, and then you look at every single unit that's within 6 inches of that unit. Not one model, just 6 inches of anything in that unit. So it's a real big unit stretched out. Anything within 6 inches of that unit, on a 4+, they take D3 mortals as well. Seer Wounds, casting value of 6. You pick a friendly unit within 18 of the caster, heal D6 wounds for it. So a lot of times you use Seer Wounds to kind of clear off those wounds that you gave yourself with the Eldritch Attunement. Elemental Cyclone, casting value of 6. Pick one enemy unit within 12. And for each model within 12 of the caster, on a 4+, they take a mortal wound. So basically, you got 20 guys in the unit, you do about 10 mortal wounds. It's decent. I don't find myself using it extremely often. Probably the best example is when you're a 1-drop or a low drop, and you're kind of know that you're getting towards a double turn. Maybe you got a Frostheart Phoenix or something that's kind of close to a big unit like that. You move them within range, you get the double turn. Great opportunity to use it. But very rarely do you actually get hit and you're able to use it to kind of strike back. Finally, the fourth one on here is Warding Brand. Warding Brand is a casting value of 6. You pick one friendly unit wholly within 18 of the caster. Basically, that unit, until the start of the next hero phase, roll a dice every time a wound is inflicted by a melee weapon. So this isn't shooting, this isn't charging. It's got to be a melee weapon attack, right? If they take the wound, on a 4+, the attacking model takes a mortal wound. So for example, it's really good against Kragnos, put a big unit out there with Warding Brand and Mystic Shield. It's got 30 wounds. Yeah, he's going to get through like 20 of them. So 10 mortals back is really good, and it's not affecting him directly. So the spell is actually cast on the unit, so he doesn't get to do his, hey, I'm Kragnos, and ignore spells. Then Crystal Aegis. This is a casting value of 5. Basically, until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 to Eldritch Attunement rolls for friendly Hallowheart wizards within 12 of the caster. So that's the spell ignore. So everyone would have a 4 spell ignore. All right, and then for our final spell, we have Ignite Weapons. So Ignite Weapons goes off on a 6, probably the best spell in the lore. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks until the next hero phase. So it works on missile weapons, melee weapons, everything. It kind of makes it to where the Iron Drakes aren't terrible in combat. I mean, they're still terrible, but 3s and 3s with Rend 1, not the worst. Could be worse. So they actually start doing a little bit of damage for me. But it also works on the entire unit. So now with that being said, let me go ahead and let's go into a couple other things that you get from cities and kind of how you build a list. So when I'm trying to build a Hallowheart list and kind of setting something up, basically what I'm kind of looking for is maybe a Hallowheart list that we're going to pull up here in a second. All right. So what I'm really looking for is a couple different things. So you're normally going to have a general that is going to be your Master Magic and your Arcane Tome most of the time. So commonly I have it as the Rune Lord. That way, he's got the he gets 2 spells at that point in time. Master Magic, keep him near the dwarves, really good setup combo. And that way he can also get a General's Adjutant. So the reason you want a foot hero a lot of times as General is you get the General's Adjutant. The General's Adjutant is going to give you a CP on a 4-up every single turn in your hero phase. It kind of helps get rid of that stress that you've got on yourself for the Eldritch Attunement. So the Eldritch Attunement costs a CP every single time, so you kind of need something to kind of make up for that and kind of cover that. Additionally, a battle mage is really good, and then my big unit that I normally channel from is going to almost always be a Hurricanum. So the Hurricanum's got really good damage. It's a great buff piece. The only thing you got to be careful of when you take wounds from the Hurricanum, you want to keep it above, or basically don't let it have more than 2 wounds, because once it gets 3 wounds, it's only shooting 2 bolts out. It's way less effective. You really want to be shooting that 3rd bolt. So basically topping it off is a big deal. So all this stuff happens at the start of the hero phase. So commonly, if I'm going second, I've got 3 CP. Cool. A lot of times for my heroic action, I won't even roll it yet. If I've got 4 things to do at the start of my command phase. So first, I'll do my best friend CP. That's the General's Adjutant. Did I get that CP? Awesome, I did. I'm going to use that to go ahead and channel my Eldritch Attunement. All right, cool. The Hurricanum took some wounds. All right, maybe I'm going to try to heroic recover. It's a 6. Really, really low chances. Not the greatest. But hey, if it works, that's D3 less wounds that I have to heal off of it later. Especially if I rolled a high roll, right? Then you got to pick your battle tactic, all the normal stuff that everyone else does. But the CP is also used at the start of the hero phase, so you can kind of do that in any order you want. Hey, man, he's got a croak, that's a +3 to dispel. I don't know if I can kill that unit. Let me see what my spells are, what my bonus is. All right, awesome. I've got a +6 to dispel. I know I can teleport a unit around, or +6 to cast. I know I can teleport a union around and go kill whatever I need to kill. I'm not too worried. You know what I mean? I've got a better bonus than he does. So secondly, like I said, you want a target that's going to be able to absorb your mortal wounds. So good stuff for that is the Hurricanum. The Frostheart Phoenix is another great option. Commonly, I find myself dipping into the Stormcast book. Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger is one of my favorite targets to hit with, because if he heals him, he's got a self-healing ability. And a lot of times you're doing that at no bonus, cool. And if it goes off real high, they don't want to dispel it. And if I think it's like above an 8 or a 10, it's D6 that it heals. Awesome. Not to mention his ability to teleport around the map. Kind of gives him a lot of unique, a unique position that he can kind of move around the map and grab a point for you when you really need it, or maybe later in the game. Secondly, or the next thing is for Hallowheart, is you're only really going to be able to fit 2 real big hammer units. So whether you want dragons and Tempestors, or maybe you want Iron Drakes and Judicators, you can only pretty much ever fit 2 big units in. So what I kind of find myself doing, put my 2 big units in, get my minimum battle line, add in my heroes, and then kind of build up from there. Okay, for my first list, we have a list that I've taken to a couple different tournaments. I've changed a little bit of the stuff in it, but the main backbone of this list kind of stays the same. So basically what we're doing here is we have a Rune Lord as our general, which unlocks dwarfs as battle line. Therefore, we're going to put in Iron Drakes as one of our battle lines, double reinforced. Now you've got this big 30 block of Iron Drakes that's being teleported around the board with Soulscream Bridge and destroying everything around them. Now I also have Purple Sun in here to help reduce the armor save of things that are nearby. It is a very big investment. Is it worth it? I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is one of the best lists to have Purple Sun in. So let me go through the list real quick. First, we have a Rune Lord. He's going to be our general with Warding Brand and Ignite Weapons. And of course, he's got that Arcane Tome Master Magic combo. I also give him Heal. The reason I give him Heal is because his normal prayer goes off on a 2+. That gives the Iron Drakes +1 to their end. I don't want to give him Curse because it's a 4-up. To me, the odds of getting that aren't very high without a reroll. So I've done other iterations of this where I'll take Cogs, and therefore I would have the Priest reroll as opposed to Master of Magic. At that point in time, I might take Curse. I also have a Gur Battle Mage, so we get the innate +1 to cast with the Gur Battle Mage. This one, again, has Ignite Weapons because we're really trying to get that spell off. That is our #1 most important spell. I also gave the Battle Mage Roaming Wildfire because he has a second support spell and the +2 to run and charge. So if he's not in range, a lot of times he's casting Ignite Weapons and a Bridge, or Ignite Weapons and +2 to run and charge. Roaming Wildfire is kind of my flex to do some damage if I need to. And he's also my General's Adjutant, so he's going to be near the Rune Lord for that extra CP on a 4+ at the beginning of the hero phase. Then for my third hero, I have a Hurricanum. That is going to be running Crystal Aegis and Seer Wounds. Crystal Aegis is the spell that's going to increase the odds of me ignoring spells, and then Seer Wounds so he can heal himself. I also have a unit of Dread Spears, again, they're great battle line, and a unit of Longbeards. Longbeards are trying to stay near the Iron Drakes and grumble to give me reroll ones to wound. So if I get Ignite Weapons on the Iron Drakes, that's +1 to wound. If I get the Hurricanum near the Iron Drakes, that's +1 to hit. So now we're looking at 2s and 2s. The Rune Lord gives us +1 rend, so 2 rend, and we're rerolling 1s. So the odds of hitting and wounding are extremely high at that point in time. So normally you see quite a few wounds go out. Commonly you will pick up 30, 35 wounds of models if they don't have a great save, but if they have a good save, you might be doing 10, 15 damage still, maybe even more. So additionally, I have 10 protectors in this unit. The protectors aren't going to be having the maces because they are 3s and 3s. So if they're near the Hurricanum, again, +1 to hit, and I give them Ignite Weapons if needed, +1 to wound, so now they're 2s and 2s. So the math works out in such a way that it's got to be a 2-up armor save in order for it to be better to have the Mortal Wound mace. It's personal preference. You can have as many as you want either way. I also have a unit of Sisters of Thorn. Their job is to be my 4th caster, support the other ones, because if the Hurricanum is channeling, I need the other units to get spells off. A lot of times the Hurricanum is what my opponent will wait to dispel because they know that they don't get bonuses. That being said, Seer Wounds for the Sisters so they can heal off the wounds the Hurricanum took, and then again, Ignite Weapons because that is the most important spell. Again, we also run Purple Sun, Gnashing Jaws, and Bridge. Bridge gets the Iron Drakes around, Purple Sun and Gnashing Jaws are helping me with damage and reducing armor saves. So this list right here is going to be 1995 total. I don't normally get a Triumph with this, but I could easily lower Purple Sun to something that's like a 40-point endless spell like Horror Gas, which is probably better, and then pick up the Triumph. You'll see me bring something very similar to play against Jordan on Season of War. And it works pretty well. There's a few weaknesses to a list like this. When you're relying on Soul Scream Bridge as pretty much all of your damage output, the Corn list is going to be really tough. Additionally, you don't have a lot of like Mortal Wound protection in the actual units. Like, you do have the spell protection, but not Mortal Wounds protection. Therefore, you're finding that the protectors will just get annihilated by stuff like Scarbrand or Boom Thirster. The other armies that I found that have been a tough matchup for this list has been KO, Nighthaunt, Seraphon sometimes, and then Stormcast Eternals when they're staying up in the sky. Also, from the same reason, Sylvaneth, because they can hit and just leave. It makes it a little tougher for you to get the spells off that you want, and them not being able to pull out of combat after they hit you kind of limits your abilities to move around sometimes. That being said, I found that it does work really well against a lot of the Horde armies, excluding Ghosts, because they are ignoring your Rend, which makes it a lot tougher to get through them. I've also found that Beast is a little bit of a iffy matchup. The other units that I've found that have done really well against are stuff like Iron Jaws. It does a lot of damage, and basically it can pick up quite a few models. Giants, it's not going to have any problem at all killing Giants. Kragnos is a bit of a problem, but that's one of the reasons why I love leaving the Hurricanum. The Hurricanum just helps whittle down that problem of Kragnos. Additionally, you can always throw protectors at him and put Warding Brand on the protectors. If protectors have Warding Brand, whatever damage they're taking, they're reflecting mortal wounds back to him, and most of the time that's actually going to kill him. All right, so let's get into our second list. This is a list that was being ran by Tom Guan. Now, he's ran quite a few lists. He's done very well with it. It is a bunch of dragons, basically, in Hallowheart, and this list currently is no longer legal because the Kron Spine went up 80 points. That being said, it's very easy to just drop the Sorceress out of the list and turn it, I believe that'll turn it into a 1-drop at that point in time. Yeah, you only have 3 casters, but the 1-drop might even be stronger than that. So this list right here is the Battle Mage of Gur as his general, which unlocks Flagellance's battle line, which will take 2 units and a unit of Dread Spears for the Sorceress. The general is taking Warding Brand, Ignite Weapons, and Master Magic, just like I was, basically. The Sorceress is taking Seer Wounds, Warding Brand, and she's also the general's adjutant to help you get that extra CP. Now, I believe you can make the Lord Castellan the general's adjutant. I'm not 100% sure on that. He might have too many wounds, because he does have 8 wounds. The Lord Castellan is going to take your Arcane Tome this time, and he will take also Seer Wounds and Crystal Aegis. That way you get another caster. Again, you're getting 2 spells off of that Arcane Tome, so it's even better in this list. He also has a Celestial Hurricanum, which is really nice. Again, his battle line are Dread Spears, Flagellants to get the easy battle tactics, and I really like the Flagellants because they just run forward and an easy battle tactic for you. He does have 4 Stormdrake Guard. Very strong stuff. And then the Incarnate to just eat every single charge that he needs to eat. So the Incarnate just kind of runs forward and goes, cool, good luck killing me. You have Horrorghast in your list. You can also throw out Horrorghast and just let your Kronspine eat it. Not a big deal. So what Tom was doing with his Sorceress is he was binding the Kronspine to it. The Sorceress has an ability to kill a model near her to get +2 to cast. Normally you just kill one of the Dread Spears, but you can also kill the Sorceress itself, which would then set the Kronspine wild, allowing it to run and charge. It's kind of a little cheeky little tactic that worked every now and then. It wasn't something he commonly did, but if you really needed that auto 6 run and then a charge, great, you could do it. Excuse me, you can't auto 6 it, but he does reroll his runs. Okay, so why was the Incarnate so important in this list? What Tom was doing is casting Warding Brand on his Incarnate. Now, as you know, the Incarnate does not have a wounds limit. So therefore, every wound it would take in melee would be a chance to reflect a mortal wound back on a 4+. So let's say the Incarnate took 25 damage from Kragnos. Well, you'd roll 25 dice because you don't stop counting at that 16 or the 18 wound limit that supposedly it has. It doesn't actually have it for the sake of determining whether it's dead or not. Therefore, you could roll as many dice as he would basically take. So if someone hit it with a really big unit, was like, cool, I'm going to kill it, they would basically have to roll out all the dice, count up how many wounds was actually dealt to the Incarnate, and then it would deal basically half that back in mortal wounds, which was really strong. Okay, cool, your Incarnate loses a point. No big deal. All right, so how do we make this list viable in the new points update? First things I do is probably drop the Sorceress or the Lord Castellan. I really like the Lord Castellan here because it allows you to give that +1 save to all your dragons. So let's keep him. If we drop the Sorceress, now we don't have a General's Adjutant. So my foot hero being a general is not quite as good anymore. So now that my foot hero is not quite as good, maybe it's better to upgrade my general to something that can actually do some damage. So I might want to switch my general to the Hurricanum, but it's really easy to kill the Hurricanum, and people already are going to target the Hurricanum. And I really want my general to stay around because being low on CP is really bad for this army. So what can you do? Well, let's take that Hurricanum. We'll get rid of that. All right. And instead of the Hurricanum, we're going to use a Gur Battle Mage on Griffin. That allows our foot Battle Mage to change into something else like a Sorceress, which is probably what I would do here. The Sorceress will give you access to the damaging spell that the Sorceress innately has. Not to mention it also has the +2 to casting because it's going to be killing a Dread Spear every turn. So we're going to keep a Sorceress, a Lord Castellan, and we're going to change that Celestial Hurricanum over to a Gur Battle Mage on Griffin. Get rid of the Gur Battle Mage entirely. So at this point in time, we basically picked up 20 points. It's up to you. It wouldn't be a terrible idea to throw in a Burning Head, but I'm not a huge fan of the Burning Head, so just go ahead and take those 20 points out and maybe drop Horrorghast for Jaws, or keep the Horrorghast in. It really depends on what you're more worried about playing. If you're used to playing armies that are death, Horrorghast might not be the greatest thing for you. Maybe Jaws is at that point in time. Or if you want to keep stuff up, maybe you want to take Life Swarm to keep everything topped off. It's kind of up to your preference, but it just depends how you want to play the list. Okay, so what is this list really good against? This list is really good at slowing down an opponent with the Incarnate and keeping them from the ability to run away from you and your dragons. Okay, it's really good at taking a hit, but what does it not do very well? It doesn't deal with a few things. Now, one of the things that really does a lot of damage is mortal wounds that are just shooting or something along those lines. So for example, let's say you get a Cruel Boy's turn and they're a 1-drop. They make the dragons go first. Now they're within range and the dragons are just going to get eaten up a bit. And then they could tie it up with something. Like I said, they had their own Incarnate that the dragons cannot make it out of. That'd be a good example of a counter to this list. Another list that's kind of tough for this is Idoneth, and Idoneth doesn't really do super well into a lot of different things, but when you only have so many pieces, Idoneth can kind of control the board a little better a lot of the times and pick off the small stuff in the back. Additionally, KO as well, because they can pick off all the small stuff, and then they're only dealing with the dragons. When I played Tom, when he was running this list, really the only reason I got lucky in one is because I ended up killing everything on the board but his dragons, and he failed a really big roll on his Kronspine trying to eat my bridge, which caused the Kronspine to die way earlier than it should have. That being said, because he was basically down to just the dragons can really only get to 1 point every single turn, and you're just kind of playing a points game at that point in time. What's another really good way to beat this list if you're just, you have everything to choose from? I think Ymetrica is a really good answer. Just ignoring the 2 rend and being able to just kind of have stuff that comes in and just swamps everything is really good. Not to mention the big guy's going to do a lot of damage to the dragons. And Ghost. Foot Ghost are really good because when they're charging and they're doing all these mortals, it's a pretty strong thing. Maybe another option that might be pretty decent is Marathi and the combat snakes, or Marathi and the bow snakes even, or maybe even a Gotrek, just because he starts getting through stuff really easy. So that being said, these are two very strong lists, and again, you're using the magic of Hallowheart to kind of help build on units that are already very strong. So for my example, I'm using Iron Drakes to teleport them around the board. Tom's using Dragons. The dragons are definitely stronger and better for play for a new player. But there are many different units that you can use. You can pull all kinds of stuff out of Stormcast. I've even tried to use Krondus. I haven't had a bunch of luck with him, but he is really fun to play. If you're looking for other units that you might have on the shelf that go really well with this, Fulminators, of course, are amazing. Long Strike Crossbowmen do great in this list as well. And again, you're getting two really good hitting units. So Protectors I love. I think they're one of the best, and they're just such a tough unit. You can also put that magical gun line basically behind the Protectors, and it allows you to do quite a bit of damage. Another really good option that you can do is take Protectors and then add a bunch of Free Guild Crossbowmen. If you add a bunch of Free Guild Crossbowmen, now you've got the command trait from the Free Guild Generals, so they're +1 to hit and wound. You're doing a lot of damage output, and then there's a wall of Protectors in front of them. It's an army that I've been really wanting to work on. I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. Because I don't really have any crossbowmen. I'm working on printing out a bunch of dwarfs, but some tournaments don't allow you to have 3D prints. It's what it is. All right, that being said, thanks for sticking around, and I hope this kind of helps you build a Hallowheart list. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, throw them in the comments down below. Let me know if you like this stuff, and if there's anything else you want to see. Thanks.